Who's that guy?
That's Tron. He fights for the users.
Tron, a name that lights up in neon. While studios turn out reboots, sequels, and nostalgia bait, Tron stands apart. It's one of those rare franchises that didn't just hit copy-paste. Instead, it stuck with its legacy. You see what it did there? Hey everyone, this is On Wire, my name is Hene. Today we're diving into Tron, which, by the way, deserves way more love, and how Tron pulled off something bolder and way cooler than the usual Hollywood cash grabs. Ready to hear me fangirl about Tron? Great, let's get started. Let's rewind a bit. The 1982 Tron. It flopped at the box office. Critics weren't sure what to make of it, but over the years, Tron became a cult classic. Why? Because it wasn't afraid to be different, and it was digitally ahead of its time. The first movie where CGI was used extensively. It built a world inside the computer, long before we were all living on the internet. Think about it. Tron imagined the metaverse 14 years ago, and after that, Tron went into hibernation and wouldn't see the light of the day for another 27 years. But when it was time for Tron Legacy, Disney did something different, despite the movie not having any releases in the past 27 years. They didn't make Tron Legacy as a reboot for the new age audience. They progressed the original forward. Instead of wiping the slate clean, they kept everything from Tron 1982 and made big upgrades on the visuals. Just look at the recognizers. In the original Tron, we are introduced to recognizers, the MCP's enforcers,
A recognizer.
massive and imposing. They were the eye of the MCP. To be honest, they really don't look that impressive to us right now. But Legacy turned these into these. They keep the original design and add on to it, making it cinematic, aesthetic, sleek. Legacy built on top of the lore. Kevin Flynn is now in a new grid that he built himself, and he's been missing in the real world for 20 years. We met his son, Sam Flynn, enters the grid and look for his missing father. But this grid is much different from what we've seen. There is no master control program ruling this world, though we are introduced to Clue, who is a digital copy of Kevin Flynn with one goal to help him build a perfect grid,
You are Clue. I am Clue. You will create the perfect system. I will create the perfect system.
which I'll talk about in a moment. But this grid is unique. Programs in this grid don't live to serve their users like we've seen.
You believe in the users?
Yeah, sure. If I don't have a user, then who wrote me?
Legacy introduces us to ISOs, programs that came into being on their own and have their own will. Clue goes down a dark path, seeing the imperfections in the ISOs and the programs. His genocide of ISOs repurposes programs into combat programs. Tron does a great job exploring themes of digital racism and artificial consciousness seeking autonomy. Clue is, what I believe, a representation of the corruption of good intentions. And the music?
Prepare the light runner, Cora. We're going downtown.
Daft Punk made it so legendary that every scene is aesthetic and every score playing elevates it to a whole other level. Tron Ares again doesn't forget its roots. It shows us Clue's goal to go out in the real world comes to reality, just not in the way he would have expected. In the trailer we see Ares can see this DRS timer. Apparently, programs can live in the real world forever and can only exist briefly. Which raises a great question. What happened to Korra? Is she still out there in the real world? Does her being an ISO keep her from getting derised? Maybe we'll find out in October. But speaking of Korra, we see two different grids in the trailer. One is dark, red, chaotic. The other has more elements from the previous grid where Korra was born. And it has a sun. It's possible that Sam Flynn built this. But for what? Maybe Korra? Which further goes into the idea maybe she too can't live in the real world for long like Ares. We still don't know if Korra is involved in the events from Tron Ares, but a fan can hope, right? But what we do know is we're going to see Tron's focus shift from a closed digital world into our own reality. The lines between code and human life blurred even more. Digital entities are now crossing into the real world, new threats rising from the inside the grid, and Ares, a program that wants to live, we see him go to what looks like Kevin Flynn. But I have my doubts, especially because of this.
Fascinating.
That disc, that reaction, doesn't scream Kevin Flynn to me. Maybe he's Clue, maybe he's neither. Clue or Kevin, or maybe he's both. We don't know what happened to Kevin after the reintegration. I'll be honest, Tron isn't a billion-dollar franchise. It's not the loudest universe in the room, and it rarely dominates the hype cycle. But that's never been the point. Tron has always felt like a promise whispered through Neon, about what technology could be if it were more than a code, a place, a culture, a pulse. I didn't fall in love with Tron because everyone else was talking about it. I fell in love because of the way it looks, the way it sounds, and the way it makes the digital feel human. The glow of the grid, the clean geometry, and the way a light cycle streaks like a thought racing across your mind. There is poetry to it. In a landscape of franchises that often fell cut from the same cloth, Tron is something genuinely special.
Why? He's my son.
Like the video? Share your Tron Ares theories in the comments below. End of line.